Hey everyone, Eric with Ready Motorsports here. We're just doing a video today to kind of explain how our EFI system really is a self-learning system. There's a lot of confusion out there. We got a lot of phone calls, a lot of people asking. So we thought, we're just going to make this kind of show you how it really is a true self-learning EFI system where we ship it to you. And as long as you do your job right, you should be able to just hook it all up, fire it up, and start driving it and let it tune itself to all of the preset tune parameters that we've installed into the ECU, all the target air fuel ratios. You might need a little tweak here or there if on the handheld, but for the most part, you should be able to get in, turn the key, get it warmed up, start driving it, and let it tune itself. It's really that simple. And I'm going to show you on this one basically we've got this tune on our shop vehicle done. This one's got the IDA throttle bodies. We carry the two different styles of IDF throttle bodies. We've got the Sniper, and this will apply to the Sniper customers as well to explain how the self-learn works. But we've got the fuel map pretty well dialed in. It took less than 100 miles in all honesty. Your results may vary depending on how you drive. It's kind of like asking how much does a cart of groceries cost? Well, there's a lot of variables. How are you going to drive it? How varied will your driving areas be in the fuel map? But either way, it's just going to drive, tune, and we're going to explain how it works. The way we're going to do it, because what good is this? This is already tuned. What we're going to do is we're going to botch the fuel map. I'm going to put that on camera. We'll show you. We're just going to start adding and taking away 10-15% in chunks on the fuel map. Basically, we send it to you with a fuel map that we think is going to be pretty close and it should run good. What we're going to do to this fuel map is just make it trash and show you, even if you got sent a tune that wasn't close, if that was a concern, like, well, how close can he really get my tune to my car? I'm going to show you it doesn't matter. Closer is better. Just lets you start driving it, a few minutes earlier, better. I'm going to show you how bad the tune could show arriving. And as long as all the target parameters are in there that we program into it for it to try to go to, you're going to find this thing really does tune itself. No laptop needed, no EFI experience needed. If you can set up a set of dual carbs, you can set this up and start driving it even easier. There's no lean drop to do. You just select between three tunes that we give you, 12.5 to 1 at idle, 13.5 to 1 at idle, and 14.5 to 1 at idle. And that's basically your lean drop. You just load in each one, get the engine warmed up, try each one and see what idles the best. And once you find the one that idles the best, leave it on that one and start driving. That's your lean drop. You're not trying to reach down to little adjustment screws. The idle screw number 2 idle mixture screw is a nightmare to get to sometimes. You don't have to worry about any of that. You are just sinking the linkage, and that's it. You're not doing lean drops. You're not doing anything else beyond that. You're just going to get in and drive the car. So I'm going to show you a few things with these throttle bodies, and I'll show you a couple on the other throttle bodies so you can see the difference between the Heritage Series IDF, the standard IDF, and these are the Heritage IDAs that look just like a Weber IDA, and we're thrilled with these things. They look great. They fit great. They replaced my 51.5 millimeter IDAs, just spot on. Linkage, fuel inlets, I was able to make everything work. I've got some pretty tight tolerances on my breather line, and it was the exact same with the Weber versus the throttle body there. So works great. Everything's a direct swap. We've made these kits just as easy as possible for you. We've got, I think right now so far, 53 different variations built. And we still do every once in a while a couple of custom ones for people that have different needs. We've done a turbo one. We've done some with crank trigger. We can build to suit. For that stuff, we'd recommend you just get a hold of us because we can't list super odd combos on our website. It's just too much. So get a hold of us in person and we can build one to fit you, whatever you need to do. But I'm going to show you some of these throttle bodies. I'm going to show you the other throttle bodies. And then I'm going to start and show you how to get into the handheld and download your tunes, select your tunes. Then we're going to just mess up the tune on the laptop. You're going to watch us put it back into the car and start driving. And we'll explain what the numbers mean as we're driving. You're going to see closed loop percentage, learn percentage, and that's kind of the two you're going to watch at first while you're doing it. But I'm going to show you a couple of cheats on how to get it to tune a little bit quicker for you. It just takes a little bit more babysitting on your part. I'm going to show you how to tweak the idle air control so you can set your idle properly. Deactivate that, get your idle set, and then set your IAC up after that. So a couple little things, but you're going to see this is a really simple system to set up. Like I say, we've got a lot of different kits, a lot of different levels, everything from full deluxe kits that have idle air control, linkage, manifolds, ECU, the whole 9 yards, right down to what we call our carburetor replacement kit, which is throttle bodies, ECU, no idle air control, no manifolds, no linkage. So if you've got a good set of carbs and you have port matched manifolds, you've already got linkage you like, and you just want to put on EFI and just change out the minimum to do it, we have that kit for you guys too. So if you like your linkage, you like your manifolds, you like all that stuff, we've got options for you. It's great. And you bolt it on, fire it up, and just go have fun with your buddy. Go drive around and let it do its thing. It gets better and better and better the more you drive. So let's take a look at the throttle bodies, and then I'm going to show you the handheld. Okay, here's the test mule of the shop. This one's got our dual throttle body system on it, IDAs, 50 millimeter throttle bores, and they look exactly like a Weber almost. They are so spot on. If you've got a set of Webers in your engine bay, these are going to fit the exact same. We can fit, as you see, we run the vintage speed linkage on it. If you've got a hex bar linkage that mounts on the tops of the carbs, that will all still fit. They've done a killer job on these throttle bodies. The injectors are hidden inside where the fuel bowl would normally be. So you've got no fuel rails. The wiring is pretty discreet. Typically, you can hide that with your plug wires going around. We can get the linkage arms in a few different ways. So if you're running crossbar linkage, or if you're running hex bar linkage, or things like that. The only thing you've got to do, like I said, you have to be able to set up a set of dual carburetors. And all that's required here with the EFI, you're not going to do a lean drop anymore. You're going to select of the 3 different tunes we include with our system, which idle mixture works best. But other than that, all you've got to do is sync your carbs with your main throttle screws right here. Get your carbs synced up so they're idling the same side to side. And then set your linkage up so it progresses as you hit the throttle, so it opens them evenly. Beyond that, that's all you've got to do. So easier in that sense to set up than a set of dual 44s, 48s, anything like that, because now you're not even doing a lean drop. The nice part about these, where the idle mixture screw normally is, that is still functional, but it's not an idle mixture screw. They come with now, I hope I get out of the shower, that's an air bypass to the throttle plate. So you can actually fine tune, after you get pretty close with these guys, you can fine tune with these guys, these needle adjustments, to bypass air, and you can actually sync all 4 barrels exactly the same and get those running, and you're good to go. But let me show you some of the IDF throttle bodies. These are the IDAs. These are the big, what you would see on a lot of the high performance Cal-Look cars, just the big motor cars are running these. But the nice part with EFI is you can run these on a small motor too. If you just like the look, you can still do that. But let me show you the IDFs, and you're going to be able to see the difference between a Heritage Series and a Standard Series. In the IDAs, we only offer the Heritage Series. All of the IDAs that I've found so far that are standard, I don't like too much. I don't like the looks. And if you're going with IDAs, you're going for a classic look anyway. So that's what we offer for that. We think it's a great combo. Let's check out those other throttle bodies. Okay, here is our IDF equipped engine. We've put a Heritage Series throttle body on the left, a standard throttle body on the right. Show you quick differences real fast before we get back to work. The Heritage throttle body looks just like a Weber IDF. Accelerator pump, the whole 9 yards. Your fuel connections are the same. Bolt them onto your manifolds, buy a kit with manifolds. It's going to be a direct Weber replacement. You go to the standards, still going to be a direct replacement, but now you've got fuel rails that are visible. These are inboard, so you have to run a 36 horse style shroud just to get those to clear. We can get them with outboard fuel rails, which work really well for Type 3s, buses, Kias, things, that kind of thing. A Bug, it gets pretty tight, so you may have to modify sheet metal to get that outward throttle body or the fuel rail to fit in that car. But that gives you a good rundown of what they are. The standard throttle bodies do not have the bleed by for individual barrel adjustment like the Heritage Series do. These things are pretty high end. They're not just a good looking face, they're actually an extremely high quality throttle body. So depending on what you're looking for in your kit, we've got both available. You can go old school cool, keep it clean, or you can go with modern and have a fuel rail, and both will perform the same. You've just got different options, different views, different things like that. So we've got you covered, but let's take a look at what it's going to take to get this car self-learning. We're going to screw up the fuel map. We're going to take it for a drive, and you're going to see that without a laptop, this thing will tune all by itself. So let's get to work. Let's pull that SD card out and see what happens. Okay guys, here's your handheld display. You can mount this in a lot of different ways, or you can take it off, flip the cover around, and just throw it in your glove box so it's not in the way. That's how little you need, not just a laptop. You just don't need to do anything on your part hardly to get these things to tune. It's very little work on your part. But what I'm going to do before I screw up this tune is I'm going to save it. I've already saved it. I'm going to save it again just so you can see how to do it. So say you've played with the tune, or you want to play with the tune. So we'll go from our main screen to home. If you're going to play with it, what you'll want to do first is you go to the home. You're going to go File, Global Configs, and what you'll do is download from the ECU. And the download from the ECU, it's going to ask you, do you want to save it to the SD card? And you're going to go save it as. And what I like to do, what I did obviously this morning, I just wrote current and then the date. And that was the last save I did, was on October 27th. So I can always go back to that. I spelled it wrong. It's supposed to be 2023. I like to put a date on it just so you know where you're at. But you'll hit OK, you'll save it. And now at that point, you can play with the EFI all you want. You can go through all of the systems, the tuning, the basic, the advanced, all of the stuff. You can start playing with all of it and have a good time with it. And if you mess it up, you go back to that tune that you date stamped so you know when that was. You always go back. You're always able to go back home and you're good to go. So we've got this saved on the SD card. The SD card, if you weren't aware, is right there on the side. You can save so many tunes on that. You're never going to run out of space, but the ability to be able to data log on this handheld, take it into your home laptop and play it on the free software from Holly and look at your data logs. You can look at your tunes if you want to. You can start playing with that. It opens up a lot of doors that you don't have to have, but you have access to. You could actually, as you tune, you get things going, you could take this out and save a copy on your home computer, on your cloud, anything like that for safekeeping. You know, it's a very capable system, but let's go mess this tune up, reload it back in, and go for a drive. Here you go. Here's our fuel map. And typically in EFI cars, you're going to idle down here in the corner, and as you take off, you know, you're going to see mostly diagonally from bottom left to top right, because you're never at wide open throttle at 800 RPM. You're never, you know, at 6,700 RPM at, you know, 4% throttle, that kind of thing. So most of your driving, it ends up kind of in like a big football shape. You're going to get a lot around in that area, and that's where it's going to do most of its tuning. So what we're going to do to make this work or not work, let's just do one of these. We can offset the selected. Let's go, we're going to multiply that by, let's see if I'm going to multiply. We're going to go 1.1 right there. So that adds 10% fuel. Let's see, right here. We're going to offset that, and we're just going to multiply that one by 0.9. That's going to take 10% fuel out. And then we're going to do this one. Let's lean that one up. So obviously, as you can tell, I'm making this thing look really bad. We're not even consistent with going like, well, I'm going to just lean the whole table out 10%. I'm trying to get it just as wonky as possible, so I can show you a worst case scenario of how well this really literally tunes itself. So I'm going to add 10% or take away, I think on this one I'm going to add the 10%. So I'm going to go 1.1. But as you can see, so now we've changed a few things. We've got the fuel map, and we've got, it's hard to see on the screen, I'm sure, but we got a high spot here, we've got a low spot here, we got another high spot, low spot. We're kind of just putting it all over the place. You know, and if we want, we could really just do this one. I'm going to offset that one. I'm going to do the 20% on that one, just to really show it, right? So there's 20% added fuel right there. We go. So that's a big chunk that's way out of whack. The good part is I can always go back to that tune I saved, and it undoes everything I've done here. But for this one, I'm going to save this as, I'm going to title it something different. You don't want to just title it right over it. So I'm going to go current, and instead of the date, I'm going to put trash tune, because this tune is pretty trash now. So we've saved that on the card as a different name. So now we still have our old tune. Now we have this tune to show you what's going to happen. So let's eject this little SD card. Let's load it into, no, I'm still loaded into, I think I have to close out on this one. That's okay. So we'll close that out. There we are. We're safe to remove. Let's go load it in and show you that even with, without me even trying to make a tune that's even close like I do for you guys, it's still going to be drivable while it tunes, and it's going to tune without any laptop, without any input from you. Let's go have some fun. Okay, here we go. So we're going to take the handheld, slide it up out of the case just enough to get that guy in, click it in. It's like a ballpoint pen. Click it in, click it out. Close that up. Now let's load it. I'm going to show you how to do that. For now, I'm still going to use the stylus that it comes with until I lose it. These are usually the first things I lose in my car. So if you run out of this and your finger kind of wants to fat finger around on it, I found my eyeglasses or my sunglass works just as well. So we're going to go File, Global Config. There we are, current trash tune. We're going to upload it to the ECU. We're going to send that in. That's going to tell me turn the key off for 4 seconds for the full tune to take effect. So I usually go back to home. I think that's just a OCD there, but so I'll turn that off. Next time we fire it up, the tune is going to be just messed up in the ECU, and we're going to drive it. Okay, first fire up with the EFI system. You can see it's going to load up. A little bit harder time starting than normal because we did mess up the tune so bad. You know, air fuels, you can see the closed loop right now is already starting to pull some fuel out. It goes pretty quick, it really does, and you can see the actual air fuel versus the target air fuel. Then you're going to see your closed loop was your more instant corrections versus your learn, which is a slower correction. But you can see trying to idle, it's starting to pull out percentages. And this is why I don't consider EGO correction self-learn. There's a lot of EFI companies that are calling it self-learn, but you can see it still has to get to where it's going. And if you're moving on that cell between map and RPM and it's flying through cells as you drive, how fast is that really going to do an instant correction? It's not real self-learn. That changing the fuel map like we showed you will actually be a self-learn. But as you can see, we didn't get back in the car quick enough. It's cold. We're at a 101.9% enrichment as it warms up. So we got to let it warm up. And honestly, the best way to get it warm up is let's start driving, and I'm going to show you how drivable it still is, even though we've turned the fuel way off. You'll notice it's not always doing closed loop. It does closed loop or learning only when it's stable enough to be proper tuning. So pulling up through RPMs, it does fine, but if your pedal is actually moving, it doesn't. If you're doing a decel, it doesn't try to learn that. And I found with a really big throttle plate at a light cruise, mine doesn't want to learn because it thinks I'm just going above idle and it's not trying to learn there. But you know, properly sized, and we'll help you do that. It's going to all work a lot better for you. But as we keep going here, you can see it correcting as we drive. It does a really fast correction, and you can see it moves quite a bit. Now, where I told you it goes to 20%, I've changed this to go above and below 20% to tune faster and better, so that we don't have to transfer the table as much as we had been. And it's not going to be any good to transfer the table right now because we are not at 100%. We're getting there. You can see on decel, it's not trying to learn under a bad situation. So it's a smart learn. Hold a steady throttle position, and it wants to try to learn all the cells based on your input. So you can see it does pretty good. It keeps it totally drivable. You know, it corrects quick enough to be drivable, but for those of you that are perfectionists, you know, as we all seem to be, once we go EFI, we want it to work. you know, the quick response is great, but we want the map to actually change, and that's what we're going to do. So now we're learning, we're at 100%. So now, so the learn turns on at the same time. That 20 some odd percent you saw in the closed loop will eventually transfer to learn. And that percentage is how much it's changed that cell so much. It's not a percentage of completion. I've had some people ask me that, saying that they never get it to 100% learn, so it never, and it's like, well, no, that's just a percentage of how much it's actually changing. So eventually that last percentage will transfer to that learn in that cell. And this is how fast it learns. You can tell no laptop connected, no tuning experience is being used on this because we've already loaded all of our tunes into it. So you're really able to tune your car simply by driving it. You can see we're transferring our idle over to that one. That 30% is going to end up over here, and it works really well. So let's just drive around. Let's put some miles on it. You can see 1400 RPM on an FK89. No hesitation, no bogging. It just does what it wants to make sure we get to where we're going. It's tuning while you drive it. Literally, if you can drive a car, you can tune EFI now. How about that? So for years, if you can hear me, I'll try to keep the RPMs down so you can hear me. For years, tuning our old EFI cars, and I'm not going to name brands or anything like that, because I think they're all capable. It just depends on how much you want to learn to use them, but they all turn out to be about the same. But what was your worst part about tuning the EFI in the old car? It was, I was telling my wife, hop in, hold the laptop, and hit Control S every once in a while to try to save the tune as it's going, as we're trying to run. What they had is it would only tune while the laptop was connected. You could only change the fuel map with the laptop connected.
Right.
And so, yeah, I've got her riding along as we're trying to do all the various tuning. And she's had about 15 years of that, and I think she's done. But so now we just go for a drive. It's driving just fine. There's good throttle response. Even though that tune is pretty far off, it's still pretty much right there. It's still drivable. It's still letting you do your things. I'm tuning EFI. And I'm enjoying my time while I'm doing it. I'm not frustrated with baud rate connection issues, or I'm not dealing with jiggling a USB cord on the laptop as we drive around. Neither of us are tuning anything. The thing's already idling. We're back to there. It's already learned the idle most of the way back. It really tunes pretty fast. And while you're tuning, it still drives pretty good.
That guy doesn't even know we're tuning EFI right now.
Yeah.
We're so stealth.
Nobody around me knows that I'm tuning my EFI and getting it really dialed in. It's so sneaky.
It's so tricky. So what was the first motor that we did EFI on?
That was the drag motor.
Is that the one that we built in the kitchen of the apartment? Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, the good old days.
The good old days. Broke new parents building a race motor in the kitchen area of the apartment you live in. But yeah, I don't think we ran those IDAs for very long before we went with a DIY style EFI, and it was a big learning curve, and it took a lot of laptop work. And what I ended up I fabricated a mount to bolt to the pan where the passenger seat was that would hold this little laptop right where I could get to it.
Yep.
So I could tune that way, and I thought that was the future. And it's like, man, so then once we got that tuned, we ran it, we learned a lot doing that, and that's the basis for a lot of this, is all that hard work of learning back then. We've applied it to everything now to save you guys the effort, but we're getting that car back out on the road next spring. It's been off the road for the last few years since our drag strip closed, and now we're just to the point of going like, it's a fun, rowdy car. We want to drive it. It's our unlimited Street West car. It's done, low 10s in the quarter mile. It's a little bit bonkers for the street, but you can turn high boost off. You don't have to drive on the streets at 30 pounds of boost. You can leave it at 8. Maybe.
Maybe.
But I'm going to switch that over. When we get that back up and running, we're going to switch it over to the same ECU that we run on this. We're just going to adapt it to our existing hardware. We've got fuel rails that we built for it. We've got a Mustang throttle body, all that, but we're going to make it work with that. And that's where I kind of go back to, if you guys have a custom install you need, let us know on that, because we can do a lot of variables, but we're not going to list all those for sale on our website because that's impossible. It's a waste of resources. So get a hold of us via email, and we can work with you on a custom install. If you're doing a big boosted application or just a big rowdy aspirated installation or anything like that, we can help you with that. But I'm going to convert that car over to this, because the biggest pain in that was I try to drive around, I have the wife hold the laptop, and when you're trying to do pulls up the on-ramp at 20, 25 pounds of boost, she has kind of a hard time holding that laptop.
Laptop goes, whee!
And so the nice part is, you could just set it, start driving it. God, in all honesty, you could go down the quarter mile and let it tune while you're going down the quarter mile. You don't have to, at that point, rent a dyno. If we've got the air fuel set to where your car makes power, especially if you tell us where you want it to be air fuel wise under boost, at what PSI of boost and everything, we'll set that all up for you. You go make your passes and it'll correct, adjust, and learn the whole time you go down the track. So you don't even have to worry about it. It's a really capable system, and like I say, it's the only one that we know of that does a fuel map altercation. It will actually change the fuel map legitimately, and no one else seems to make that, and I'm not really sure why. It's far superior in my opinion, because literally as you drive it, the reason it gets better and better every time you drive it is because it is changing the fuel map. You're not letting a closed loop try to catch up on each cell as you move through the map. It's adjusting the map, so as you pop into that next cell, it's already tuning up to where it should be or down to where it should be. And that's why it drives better and better and better the whole time you drive it. So there's a definite advantage to this. If you want to do EFI, you don't want to learn EFI, in my opinion, there's no better way than this way. Most of who we sell our kits to don't know the first thing about EFI, and they just put it in and it works. And I would say 1 in 10, but I don't even think it's that, but 1 in 10, you're going to get a weird engine combo that needs a little bit of extra attention by us. A little tweak here or there because something's really bonkers on it. Well, that's what we're here for. I'm going to do this roundabout in 4th gear. I'm at 1,000 RPM. I think I was almost 800 RPM. I'm still in 4th gear. You can hear there's no hesitation. It just kind of goes, and we're right back up to the speed limit. Not saying you can't do that with a set of IDAs, but you're going to do a hell of a lot more elbow grease tuning to get to respond at that low of RPM as this did with me doing nothing. So if you can't tune a set of duals, but you know how to set the linkage up, you can do EFI easier than carburetors. Let's just say that then. If you don't know how to jet, you don't know, lean drops, all that stuff, maybe you can do EFI easier. Hell, all you could do is set up the linkage, you're good to go. Now we're done with our drive. I'm going to simply, without retuning, I'm going to download from the ECU what we just did. I'm going to save it as a different name. I'll call it Trash Tune 2. I'm going to save that. So now we can go look at what it actually did. But before I do that, to transfer, as we've talked about, you've seen how we did it on the laptop. You can see how to do it on the handheld. From the home screen, if you want to transfer your tune, go tuning, basic, closed loop learn, closed loop. Now here's where we talked about, you transfer the table, and it's going to ask, do you want to smooth the fuel table with the learned values? It really should say no and okay, because cancel makes it sound like you're not going to transfer the table, but you will, but you cancel the smoothing. And that's what we recommend you do. It just works better, we have found. Then you go back into your thing and just keep on driving the way you're driving. But so we're going to take this SD card into the laptop and show you what that drive did for learning. And just a short, what was that, maybe 5 miles, you're going to see how much tuning we actually did.
There you go.
Okay, guys, we've got our SD card loaded back up. Let's open up our tuning software so you can see what we've done. We're going to go back down to our SD card to pull up exactly what we've done. And that's the one we just saved. So, as you can see, our tables are all the same. They look identical, right? So you're thinking, if it tuned, what are you talking about? The map looks the same. And you're right, the pulse width map looks the same, but what goes over the top of it is the learn table. The learn table is your percentages that go above and on top of everything. Add, take away fuel. You can see by percentages what they are. I've got some that are a negative 17% fuel taken out. This one's added 6.9% fuel. And you can see it's added, and you can see because we did it blocky where we took 10% out, added 10% out, took 10% out, you're seeing big minus percentages, big plus percentages, big minus percentages. And that's only 5 miles worth of tuning. And it's, obviously you can see, I think around that roundabout, where I'd roll back in the throttle, you can see right there, I spent some time in that, a lot of ignition events basically, so it's capturing a lot of data there. So you can see it about, 10 to 1200 RPM pulling out of that roundabout a few times around those turns. We stayed in 4th gear for a lot of this. You can see it starts adding fuel, changing, dialing that in, it's dialing a lot here. Low RPM, it's changed a lot of fuel there. Another one all the way up into here, looks like I only hit about 6,000 RPM. Didn't really get too rambunctious on this drive, but you can see, I mean, right side by side, we have big takeaways, big adds, and that's because of what we did when we blocked it out and added and took away a lot of fuel. So that's your percentages that shadow on top of your pulse width map. So as you drive, it really is actually changing the fuel map. And when you go into the computer where we show you transfer learning to base, and we showed you where it says cancel, this is, so I saved the tune and then we transferred it in the car. So this will do exactly what it did in the car. So when you go into transfer to learn to base, and when you hit cancel, that's the same as no on smooth. That zeroes out your whole thing. You can still see the little arrows in the corners where it either took away fuel, added fuel. You can see them all different directions because we scattered that fuel map as much as possible. And then you go back to your fuel map itself, and you can see it's a little rough because we got some driving to do, but you saw how good it drove as it's getting us back to, you can see the dent in the tuning right there as we're moving up through. You can see where it's starting to change the fuel. Over time, it's going to smooth that all back down exactly where it was. And maybe I'll do a follow-up video. I'll drive this car for a few more weeks. It's got a gas heater. We're going into winter. So I'll still drive it. And it's still a fun little parts runner. It's still a fun driver. I'll give it a few weeks. I'll pull up the fuel map and show you guys that it's dialed it in, and we're not relying only on closed loop to correct the fuel, but we're actually changing that fuel map. But you can see where it's already started. You can see on the learn table before we transferred it over what really changed. And that's really what makes the difference on this thing, because it's tuning to all the targets. We've changed so much in the computer system to work with the Volkswagens. We've got all the settings are changed. Just a ton is going on, and we've done all the hard part. You don't have to learn EFI to do EFI. All right, guys. So you could see where we drove the car with a bad fuel map, but it was able to pretty much instantly correct while it drove, and then it retaught the fuel map as it went. In only 5 miles, you could see the change that it made. You give that thing 100 miles, and it's going to get dialed in pretty quick. So we've done what we feel like we've done a lot of the footwork. all the targets, the parameters, all of the years of EFI tuning on air-cooled VW engines we've done. And we've got, you know, over 15 years of EFI on air-cooled VWs under our belt. We've taken everything we've gained knowledge-wise and laid it all out in the ECU so that on your end, as you could see, even if the fuel map's not very close when we send it to you, it's still going to drive, and you're still going to be able to drive it and tune it, and it's just going to work. And I feel like that's the best system out there for that. And on top of that, you could then, as you could see in the laptop, hook a cable up and you could laptop tune in person if you wanted to really learn more. It's a system you can grow with. You could do it all with SD card swapping. It's all super easy, but you don't have to do any of that. But the door is open to that. You can do a lot with it if you want later on. So enjoy it the way it is. Drive your car. Enjoy a car that drives good no matter what elevation you're at, no matter what the barometric corrections are, you know, weather-wise. Drive it, enjoy it. Later on, expand and learn more about it if you want, or don't. Just if you like the way it runs, and it runs a lot better than carbs, I'll tell you that. Have fun with it. If you have any other questions, hit us with the comments below. We'll try to keep on top of those best we can. But if you need a real answer real quick, email us, you know, at readymotorsports@gmail.com, or go to our website if you want more pricing options on this EFI system or the over 50 different kits we offer for just about every application we could do. So go to readymotorsports.com. Up in the upper right corner, click on the menu, hit shop, and go into the EFI section. And we've got it tailored down to kind of filter you down to your application. And I hope we explained the throttle bodies on the other motor, and you know exactly what you need to be looking at now. But if you, again, any questions, let us know, hit us up. We're happy to answer them for you. I hope you liked the video. I hope it clears up a lot of questions, and we hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.